everyone. I'm Yocheved from SitePro. I have a website, sitepro.com, where I provide continuing education for BCBAs, and I help ABA agencies train and retain their BCBAs by providing top quality continuing education webinars. So a lot of ABA agencies I know have a challenge with keeping up with the marketing trends and with attracting clients online or attracting talent online. So I thought it would be helpful to have Reece Epstein of Reputation Elevation come on here with me and discuss some current trends in marketing, digital marketing that can help you and your agency. So hi, Reece. Thank you for coming on here today with me.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me on. I was really excited when you reached out to me about doing something like this. I think it's great for ABA businesses to have a resource like this, and I hope that everybody viewing this will get a lot of value. I know that just from having learned about the work that you're doing, and you have over, I think, 10,000 hours of student learning accomplished on your platform, that you're doing great things to enable BCBAs to grow professionally. And I really appreciate your having me on to discuss a little bit of the business side of things.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Reputation Elevation and the work that you've been doing for ABA agencies?
Sure. So, when I started my business, was it 7 or 8 years ago, I didn't know what ABA was. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, somebody referred an ABA organization to me. And in about 6 months of working with me, they quadrupled in size. So I realized that there was something special going on here, that I had something really to offer in the marketplace to ABA businesses. And I reached out and found more ABA businesses who needed similar help. So since then, I've done things like help organizations to open new locations by making sure they have enough cases when they open those locations. I've helped an organization turn around from being in a place where they're considering laying off staff because of a shortage of cases to needing to hire staff because they actually had too many cases, and doing that in just 3 months. And my clients have seen 7-figure results and a 50 to 1 or better return on investment with their marketing using my services.
Oh, that's great. So where is the number one place where ABA agencies and clinics seem to go wrong with their marketing strategy?
It's a really interesting question. So I think I'll say there are actually two things that I see that are very common. So one is trying to be effective with marketing despite the sort of reservations against a marketing approach that can be apparent in the field. And let me explain on that. The field of ABA is remarkable for its academic focus and its research grounding. And it's because of that academic focus and research grounding that's able to be really effective for so many people. And part of the sort of ethos of focusing on a sort of very important clinical integrity can be an aversion to marketing. And that's because a lot of times there are marketers out there, there are companies out there that will use sort of unethical or sort of a very unethical marketing tactics. And it's important for BCBAs to stay with their integrity and remain true to their core values and beliefs. And so it can be tricky to get into marketing when you're used to seeing so much marketing that would violate your principles. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is that sometimes that organizations have just don't realize that there are ways of being highly ethical in your marketing, but still being very effective. And that stops them from really looking for the best solutions. So that's one. A second thing I would say is that a lot of organizations sort of look at marketing in planning for it as sort of a side activity, meaning there are so many things involved in running an ABA practice that sort of gets pushed to the side or minimized in its importance until it's too late and you're trying to catch up. And the reality of life for ABA businesses is that if you don't have a steady stream or reliable source of new cases, then eventually that can cause a real problem. And it's important for organizations to take it seriously from the beginning and not end up trying to scramble later on when they're worried about having to lay off staff because they didn't prepare ahead of time a reliable source of new cases for when kiddos would graduate on to kindergarten or whatever the case may be. So I would say those are two areas where organizations run into some difficulties.
Yeah, so that brings me to my next question, where I was wondering what you thought of the entry of private equity into the ABA space. How does that impact their strategic environment for clinician run practices?
It's also a great question. So there's first of all something to be said about sort of the emotions involved,
Mhm.
meaning that for clinicians who are very committed to the integrity of making sure that services are always of the highest quality and so forth, which is extremely important, there can be a real discomfort with the interest of private equity in the field because private equity tends to bring more of a profit focus than a quality focus. It's not always true for every private equity company. And I have met private equity or investors who are very quality oriented, so it might be a stereotype that's unfair, but there's something to it. There are organizations out there. And then there are a lot of therapists who, before they own practices, are working for a large company that maybe is owned by private equity, and maybe they experience some policies that prioritize profit where they would have prioritized quality a little bit more.
Mhm.
Um, so there's definitely like an emotional background. And I think there's also a fear, that these sort of fancy business people with their MBAs or whatever, maybe they'll be impossible to successfully compete against. And in fact, at the Autism Investors Summit that was online because of COVID for 2020, 2021, somebody actually pulled me aside into a sort of a private digital meeting room and voiced this concern. Um, and so I think that what it requires is understanding essentially how to find sort of your niche in marketing in order to be able to attract new cases, no matter what the private equity is doing. Um, you know, Private equity people can be very smart, and there's a reason why they are managing or have amassed large sums of capital. They're probably good at what they do. It doesn't mean that they're great at, let's say, attracting new cases into an organization, and oftentimes they are relying on the same tools that everybody else is. So I say the first thing is not to be too intimidated. And the second thing is to be taking action and finding just the best way forward. So no matter what PE is doing in your area, if they are doing something in your area, you're able to make sure that your practice is secure, that you're able to grow your business, and that you're not threatened by them.
Yeah, so sort of like taking the combination of the best of the two. I know as a BCBA, there are flaws in companies that don't have the business end run properly, and it's not comfortable to work in a business where they don't have the funds to keep things running smoothly. And on the other hand, it's not comfortable to work in an agency where you feel like your ethics are being compromised or your values are not in line with the owners. So on both ends, you sort of need a combination of both.
Mhm.
And so in that case, the
Yeah,
marketing strategy would need to be aligned with both, having both things in mind. And that's what's going to help you attract both clients and talent if you keep the best of both worlds, if you keep the combination together. Yeah.
100%.
Mhm.
100%.
So, what do you see today as working the best right now for an ABA agency or business that's looking to grow? They have their values in place and they have their people in place. So, which angles would you recommend for them to take now as far as digital marketing?
Sure. So, digital marketing broadly breaks down into search and social media. Within social media, you have paid and organic, and within search, you have paid and organic. Organic meaning you're not paying Google search or Facebook to advertise. You're engaging in activities that you hope will be helpful, and paid meaning you're paying them to advertise. So that's a sort of a helpful paradigm there. You have other platforms, like Instagram, uh, but I think it's very secondary to your bigger players, Facebook and Google. So when we look at Google, and we look at Google Organic specifically, organic's great, meaning be able to rank your website to the top of Google search so that people who are searching AV therapy near me find your business. That's fantastic. It gives you a sense of authority, an image of authority in the eyes of parents because you're first, or at least if you're not first, you're in the top 10 or top 3, whatever it is. And it's great to do. It does take time. So if your organization it has a time-sensitive situation that they need to get cases quickly, that's not the way to go. It is the way to go for a long-term investment that pays off. With Google paid ads, Google AdWords, the first thing I'll say as on my way to the answer is what's the best thing to do is don't use AdWords Express. It's a product Google put out there for businesses getting started, just to sort of get you in there with an automated campaign. And they don't know how to do things well for ABA. They're great for dentists. They've got that down perfectly. ABA, it's not good for ABA, so don't do it. You need to have a real AdWords account, the professional kind. And I would say that it varies, the successfulness of that varies a lot by region and by the quality of your website. You need to have a high converting website that looks nice and works nicely on mobile and desktop. A lot of companies really don't, or it's just sort of mediocre. And then it depends on the competition area, what other companies are doing. So it's sort of a roll of the dice because you have a lot of factors that are there. Now, Facebook organic is mostly useful just for having like a good sort of image if people look at your Facebook page. It can be useful if you're going to Facebook groups and doing things organically on your own. That works for some people, not for others. But if you're posting to your Facebook business page, Facebook will intentionally make sure you don't get so much reach or exposure because they want you to pay for ads, which brings me to what does actually work best right now, and that's Facebook ads. So Facebook ads is different from Google in that people on Facebook generally aren't looking for ABA the day they see your ad. However, maybe because of that, there isn't as much competition there. Like people often don't know how to effectively advertise on Facebook. And there are tools within Facebook that make it very easy to eliminate the variable of like how attractive your brand or website is by keeping everything in Facebook, but still getting parents to get in touch with you. So I found for most of my clients who have, for example, written my LinkedIn with their recommendations of me discussing their significant results, most of them have been using Facebook ad system, and that's the choice most of my clients make.
Mm-hmm. And from your experience, would you say that a company needs to hire a specific staff person to run the marketing, or is this something that the face of the organization on Facebook or on LinkedIn should be the owner themselves, or is this something that should, for some reason, be outsourced or designated within their agency?
Interesting question. So when you talk about organic work for your business, it is ideal. Like if you're going to really invest in organic, then I guess it could make sense. But what's interesting is that with the right tools, you can actually accomplish your organic social media with just taking one of your current employees who's good at writing and visual stuff and having them put a few hours per month into Facebook and Instagram. So I think it actually is more cost effective on the organic side to do that. On the paid ads side, I find that most organizations are really basically incapable of using it effectively. There are aspects of Facebook ads that are easy and intuitive to learn. Like it's really intuitive to put a pin on the map and adjust the number of miles around that pin to decide like what area your ads will be shown in. It's not so intuitive to figure out the right ad format, the right budget, the right audience, and so forth. And so I've yet to come across an organization that on its own figured out Facebook ads and how to do it effectively, and ultimately trying to spend hours and hours on it yourself, which is lost productivity time, and then investing thousands of dollars just in testing stuff to see if something will work, ends up being inefficient. So it is in the best interest of organizations who are looking to really grow to get some outside help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you touched on it a little bit, but what are we talking about budget-wise? What should ABA agencies be thinking about when deciding on their marketing budget?
Mm-hmm. Great question. So I would say that the number one mistake here is sort of thinking of your business's budget as like a pie, and mm-hmm. then trying to say, okay, well, staff is 65% of the pie, and that leaves this for billing and admin, and this much for this and that, and then like finding a little slice for the marketing. That's a mistake, because if you're talking about marketing as a gamble, or marketing as just a way to get the word out without measurable results, then I hear that. I think it makes sense because you're not really doing anything. But if you're talking about marketing as a way to get new cases, the question becomes, how many cases am I looking for? And then what kind of investment is necessary to get me there, right? So if you think about an APA case, a typical case may generate $40,000 to $80,000 per year in revenue for an organization. We wouldn't expect you, just in general, thinking outside of ABA, but thinking about business in general, we wouldn't really expect you to be able to, let's say, add 20 of those and let's say 1 million in revenue or something, using $300 a month or something, right? That you found sort of as like leftover in the pie. You have to think about like, what am I trying to accomplish? And then, so if I need like 5 cases per month to be enrolled, well, how many cases do I have to talk to? I have to talk to that many cases. What kind of budget is required? So you have to sort of work backwards strategically. And so for my clients, a lot of them sort of can think about it this way. If you had a special ATM machine, does not like your ordinary ATM machine, where when you put $1 in, it gave you $10 back out. How much money would you put in? You'd put in as much money as you could because you're making an ROI back. So it becomes a matter of figuring out the right vehicle to get you to your goal. And then, obviously being responsible with your cash flow, but looking as an investment and not as an expense.
Being that I do continuing education for BCBAs, and a lot of the reasons why people will choose to spend money to provide the training for their BCBAs is because they find that the training helps them retain their BCBAs. BCBAs need to get their CEUs every single year, every 2 years. And being that BCBAs need this, they need their CEUs, and they are also motivated to learn and to grow. They went into ABA to become a helper, to learn more, and they want to impact more kids. So that's why I'll have agencies reaching out to me to help them with their continuing education for their BCBAs. Are there any digital marketing strategies that are working right now for agencies trying to recruit more staff?
Great question. And first of all, you touched on is really important. And in my experience with helping organizations with recruitment, I would say that when, as an organization, you express that one of your values is advancing the skill set and abilities of your employees, that definitely does help you to recruit and retain. And therefore, it's a smart investment to have something like SitePro to help out your business to just, be sending the right message to the BCBAs. Now, in terms of what's out there, so the truth is everyone's using one form of digital marketing, which is Indeed, and it seems to work really well for a lot of people. And that's something obviously people can sort of manage on their own. They don't need help with that. It used to be you could use Facebook ads really effectively, but in the last few years, they eliminated a lot of targeting features specifically for job-related ads. So it's much harder, and I only look at it as a last resort, which leaves you with LinkedIn. LinkedIn's great because you can target people by their job title or by the fact that they got a degree in ABA. So that's fantastic. You can narrow down your audience. And then there are about basically 4 different types of ad formats you can use to reach your audience, each with sort of varying degrees of success. And I have seen that if you have big enough populations, you are able to get some recruits, at least applying for a position. I would say that it's important to remember that any recruitment effort, no matter what platform you use, runs into the same barrier to entry barriers that every method does, which is that there are only so many PCBAs in an area, and everybody wants them. So you run into that same sort of thing, and that limits the efficacy. So I say to clients, look, do everything you can with Indeed, and whatever else you're doing, sending out emails to the BCB list as your sort of standard, modus operandi. And then if that's not sufficient, so fine, let's look at another approach. Then okay, let's look at LinkedIn and see if you can do something there using their paid ads specifically to promote your jobs.
Wow. Thank you so much, Reece. So
you're welcome.
I really appreciate your time here. I'm sure everyone watching really gained a lot from everything you have to offer as far as marketing. If you wanted to reach out to Reece, what would be the best way for an agency to reach out to you?
So you can go over to reputationelevation.net, and then there's a page there, like book a call or something, and you can book a call on my calendar. You can also email me at rae@reputationelevation.net. Or just look me up on LinkedIn, Reece Epstein, Reece with a C instead of an S, and I'll be happy to talk to you there as well.
Love it. Thank you so much. Again, I'm Yocheved from SitePro, and you can reach out to me also, LinkedIn. You can email me, admin@sitepro.com. And good luck, everybody. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you, Yocheved. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you here today.
Yeah.